Hey guys, g'day from Australia, it's BlockchainBrad, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a few different things, but I want to be upfront from the start. Today we're not going to delve really deep into blockchain. The main focus is to talk about some current events that are happening in the media. I'm going to be talking about digital currencies and the role that governments may or may not have in blockchain. We're going to be talking about some NEO news and some considerations I have about NEO itself. And then we're going to be talking about other main chain blockchains in China that are emerging and that are generating discussion. And I'll also be talking about sort of businesses that are evolving, that are interconnecting with NEO. We're going to be talking about METAVERSE, the token itself, and we're going to also finally be talking about Loopring. So if you're interested in any of that, guys, that's the topic for discussion. So guys, the first thing I want to talk about is CryptoRuble. Now, if you're not familiar with CryptoRuble and you're not familiar with the recent news of the day that's just pumped out, guys, it's basically Russia's efforts to nationalize a digital currency, and basically what's come out is that there's a lot of support from the governmental sector. They're all closed meetings, so we don't really know exactly the extent of this, but it's looking like they are taking digital currencies to the next level, and that is the national overarching infrastructure that they want to establish for the entire blockchain and cryptocurrency industry. Because of that, guys, what I'm thinking of is that they are trying to find a way in which to peg all of the tokens, all of the cryptocurrencies through a national mechanism, through a national digital currency of value. Most likely they'll establish this currency in such a way where it'll have a similar value to its current and existing national currency. And from the readings I've done so far, that seems to be their trajectory. Now, am I worried about it? No, I'm not worried, because again, it's another step further towards embedding regulation, and it asserts the seriousness of blockchain within the government sphere. We already seen a significant amount of money. We're talking billions of dollars being invested into consortium blockchains, into enterprise. That in itself suggests that the governments eventually will support it, because as anyone who understands politics and understands the importance of decision making in any societal space, money plays a big role. Money dictates a lot when it comes to power. It determines a lot of the decisions that are made for the services that we utilize. So it doesn't surprise me that this is going to happen. In terms of which main chains benefit, in terms of which blockchains benefit, in terms of which altcoins benefit, we don't really know. But from my research, and again, I'm just a novice in a very vast space, and many of you guys are far more knowledgeable than me, I do believe that NEO is one of those, because they have established an ecosystem that's robust and it's well considered in terms of these kinds of things happening. Yeah, guys, we need to be looking for the kinds of blockchains that can handle this, that can support us, going to be supported and accepted and adopted in such a way that the governments aren't going to be threatened by it. Now guys, another thing I wanted to raise was a PalmBeach research group, and they put out a fantastic article. Why have I shown it? I simply think it's worth the read. It explains a very logical process that has happened with companies in China, primarily Western companies that have major play in technological markets. What China has typically done is that they've learned from the technology itself, learned from the business models, and then they've gone, nah, we're not going to have it, we're going to block this off, and we're going to create our own entity, our own companies, or we're going to support private enterprise that already has a similar technology there. The centralization of their economy, they're really focused on the prosperity of their own nation, and if anything sort of challenges that, they basically quash it. So guys, why are we raising this article and why talk about it? Well, it's always to put it in context with cryptocurrency and with the blockchain industry as a whole. And right now, guys, what seems to be happening is there's going to be a fundamental shift. Okay, so moving on, guys, to the next thing I want to talk about. Basically, the World Bank, it's looking really quite promising, because they regard blockchain quite positively as a whole. They can perceive it to be a very beneficial technology for various enterprises, services, governments, etc. So they are bullish on the blockchain as a whole. This was also confirmed by the IMF. And if you check out this article from Cointelegraph, which generally is quite reputable, Christine Lagarde, the IMF Managing Director, was again reinforcing this idea that perhaps blockchain itself as an industry is going to be revolutionary. But in doing so, there was an argument raised as to which of the blockchains are going to be beneficial for the industry, for governments of the future, for overall growth and prosperity of the blockchain. So again, have a look at it. It's worth reading through these, but here's the main point I wanted to raise that I've highlighted. And Lagarde is of the opinion that global financial institutions are taking risks by not watching and understanding emerging financial tech products, and that they are already starting to shake up the financial services and global payment system. Now, what that says to me is that they understand the magnitude of blockchain. They understand that it's already happening, that there's already major investments being thrown at the blockchain through smart contracts, through subchains being developed, through closed source, interrelated protocols that are operating and allowing these to be permission, blah, blah, blah. I've talked about this stuff before. The People's Bank of China guys, as I was alluding to before, there was an article put out in CoinDesk here, and they were just basically talking about how there's a major meeting that's coming up on the 18th of this month of October, and that's going to basically influence the future of blockchain, the future of cryptos, because provided that the leader is progressive, the one who's voted in, then it could essentially open the doorways once again and remove the bans of the ICOs. Now, me personally, I don't think all of those things are going to happen. I do think that they're going to be quite cautious as to how they graduate to an open, decentralized cryptocurrency market and blockchain support. But I do strongly believe that they're going to do it in this way, where they have a digital currency that allows for some sort of centrally mechanized means of ensuring that they benefit financially from this industry. So also, to reinforce this further, there was, as I was alluding to before, there is this Congress meeting that's happening right now, and there is one guy particularly, and if you look through, his name is Xi Jinping, or something like that, and if he wins, apparently he's very progressive, a progressive thinker, and he is pro cryptocurrency and a proponent of blockchain as a whole. Now, whether that means he's going to promote Bitcoin, he's going to support it, that's to be seen. But from the many sources that I've read, and again, it's just media, there's a lot of suggestions that he's not as bullish on Bitcoin as many might think. And in fact, he can see the financial benefits of other blockchains and other cryptocurrencies perhaps even. But there's no question in my mind that he has China's interests at heart in head, because they're looking for profit, they're looking for supporting their own economy. And again, if Bitcoin is overtly foreign to them, then it will be interesting to see what happens as a result of these meetings and what decisions are made. Moving on to the next thing I want to talk to you about, it sort of alludes to what I'm saying in that this article suggests that it's very likely that the Chinese government will not back Bitcoin. So I've highlighted a statement for you, and it says, Chinese scholars showed their interest in the idea of state-issued digital currency and steadfastly refused to recognize the value of public cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin. Now, again, everything's subjective and we can't rely solely on these sources, but what we can see is a pattern and a propensity for China to support their own, and they do not regard Bitcoin as their own. So it's something to at least consider and at least discuss, because whilst we are all supportive of the ideals of Bitcoin and the egalitarian decentralized structure, architecture that it is, we need to be looking clearly and objectively at this and think, okay, what is the likely decisions that a government's going to make? Okay, so moving on to the next one. This article was published quite recently as well. It was done by the Cointelegraph, and as you know, a lot of their stuff's quite reputable, but I really liked this quote and I thought this will relate to what I'm talking about. And it says here, I hope it's okay if I read it, the cryptocurrencies and other virtual currencies attempt to challenge the sovereign state's right to issue currency, requiring the nationalization of currency issuance. China has a clear understanding of digital forms of money and is actively engaging in relevant work. The central bank has set up a research group and a digital money research institute to explore the digitization of sovereign money. After this round of virtual money market supervision, we expect, under the auspices of the Chinese Central Bank, to launch our own sovereign digital currency as soon as possible to help maintain China's leadership in the development of global digital finance. Now guys, in a nutshell, what I'm reading from that is that they just want to jump on board as quick as they can through a nationalized means of having a digital currency so that they don't miss the boat of what's already an ever-expanding decentralized blockchain marketplace. So that being said, what's important is to think about the word pegging and whether or not the idea that China is coming up with is to have this digital currency as a means of trying to assert its value, being pegged to any subsequent blockchain projects, blockchain businesses, blockchain enterprises, etc. Quickly moving on, the next thing I want to talk to you about is a really interesting character. I really like this guy. His name is Keith Waring and he's from the UK. So mate, thumbs up to you, bud. I think you're hilarious, but I also have a lot of respect for you in terms of the way in which you do some research into your white papers. You don't stuff around. So they're the kind of people I'm looking for to connect with, is people who are doing their due diligence. And he raised the issue through an interesting article I'm going to show you in a moment. So mate, I hope it's okay if I share this. He raised the issue of ETP and wanted to sort of broach a company by the name of METAVERSE. Now METAVERSE, the reason why it's piqued my interest, and I want to be really clear, I have not gone into great detail in this one yet, and I do like to do that. Just from the superficial level, it looks like a very interesting company because technologically it looks like it's in the right direction, it's moving in the right direction. It is a POS model in terms of its consensus algorithm, but let me go in and have a look at it a bit more. But for now, I just want to say that the information that's coming forth is at the very least interesting because it's another potential Chinese main chain. Again, going across, here's the article that both Keith and me now I'm talking about, and others may have as well. But it raises the question of, will the Chinese ICO ban end after October 18? Now, Da Hongfei has come out previously, and many of you aren't aware of this interview, but if you go and check it out, I'll try and find it for you, and if you request it and send you a link. But basically he said in one of his interviews that he believed ICOs were sort of done and dusted, and that what will happen now is that provided that you are a private investor of less than 200 in total, you can be part of private investment in any particular blockchain or cryptocurrency initiative that's similar to the crowdsourcing mechanism that ICOs are. So simply put, if you want to throw your money at something early in the crypto space in China, he argues that you can't do it through an ICO in the future. What Keith is suggesting is that perhaps that is not the case, and maybe ICOs will happen again. I mean, he's not saying it will, but these articles reinforce the idea that maybe it could happen. If it does, we know the price is going to change of NEO and other kinds of main chain blockchains and anything that's appended to that as well, in terms of smart contracts of value. But above all things, we need to be paying attention to October 18 and what's happening in terms of key economic stakeholders in the larger Chinese economy and what they potentially could do to the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry as a whole, simply through their own view of it. And right now, it's looking like the person who's going to go into power as a result of this Congress meeting is going to support it. So it's important we know about that, guys. Next thing I want to talk about is an article that could potentially be a bit of, could generate a bit of FOMO. I don't think it will, the fear of missing out argument, but it's saying that NEO might be a requirement for foreign ICOs in China. It's important that we look at NEO in a really rational and objective way, and because they have a really robust ecosystem that is also indirectly connected with another company, another entity called OnChain, through its NeoX cross-chain interoperability I've talked about before, and the fact that they've already spent a lot of time building out their ecosystem in China, this article is going on to suggest that, you know, there are many reasons why a government would potentially consider such a robust ecosystem as a platform for the future of the industry itself. Now, another reason why NEO is looking so damn good right now is because there's a new next exchange that's been established. And what this is, guys, is basically, it's as a result of the city of Zion doing some really cool stuff. The city of Zion is an autonomous entity in and of itself that's designed to directly support NEO. Now, NEO, the way in which it's designed, it's and incentivized through its token structure is it's saved some of its token, it's allocated some of its tokens for projects that are going to be beneficial for the NEO technology itself and for the NEO ecosystem as a whole, simply by catering for more technological components to enfranchise more uptake of the whole ecosystem. So that's a mouthful, but basically in the next exchange, what's really cool is that various guys who've designed things like found the city of Zion itself, some of them have made NEO wallets, some of them have made other things like NEO scan creators, and Fabwa, they've got together and said, you know what, we need to have some sort of next exchange. So if you want to know what that is, basically it says here it's a platform that is built on completely new protocols to develop within the NEO ecosystem, utilizing the best features the NEO platform has to offer. It will consist of a reference exchange application. So I won't go on and read any further, but what I like about this is that there's a lot of movement happening in autonomous spaces to support what's already a growing ecosystem in China. With those things in mind, it only makes my investments in NEO more confident, because whenever you have into autonomous entities like this wanting to build the NEO ecosystem further, that's looking like a really great thing. And there's also incentives built into NEO's infrastructure that allow for those kind of initiatives to flourish. Also, guys, just for a bit of NEO study, if anyone wants to know a bit more about NEO, I found this really good site on Medium, the NEO Wiki, and I just wanted to put it here because I really liked what it had to say about key aspects of NEO. It also importantly talked about digital assets, digital identity, and smart contracts. And I'll just leave that there in the screen for a second, because that is truly what sets it apart from almost all the main chains right now. Stella's coming up, and it's got some really interesting things going on. And as we know, there's some other potential players in the Chinese space. But if they don't have the right consensus algorithms that are relevant for today, and if they can't compete at this level with these kind of layers of technology and technological offerings, then they are going to be left behind, because these are essential for both the public blockchains and private blockchains, because they essentially translate to use in the real world through business. Now, moving on, the other thing I really wanted to talk to you about was NEOX, which is right here. So I'll just highlight this for you now, guys. What was important with this is that they were saying that it's likely that research and development of the NEOX will begin in 2018. And as I've previously explained in my other YouTubes and podcasts, NEOX is really freaking important. It's a cross-chain interoperable facility, and it allows for the potential exchange of tokens and value from a governance and utilities perspective between private enterprise blockchains and public ones. It also is going to provide for a vast array of interactions between NEO itself and the wider market. It's probably most likely through other blockchains themselves. So guys, we need to really be paying attention to that. And if you're an investor pre-2018 and they are releasing this then again, my argument is the value of NEO is going to increase significantly when that happens. So it's just something to know, guys. So just moving into METAVERSE, what I like about it so far, and again I'm just starting my research on it, is I like the assets structure of it. I'm not a huge fan of its consensus protocol design so far, but I'm going to look further into it. And I read today also there's a connection apparently, and correct me guys if I'm wrong, but it looks like there's some connections in terms of an advisory level between Aeon and METAVERSE. Not sure if that's true, but what I really want to focus on is that this is functioning, it's appearing to be essentially a potential main chain in China. Now I say potential because it's nowhere near as far in terms of its actual design, in terms of its real world applications, in terms of its connections in business and even in the public space. It's nowhere near as ahead in terms of potential for mass adoption through its sheer name and brand. That being said, the whole market's very fresh and new, and there's lots of scope and space for new players. But yeah, when people compare them, to me, it's oranges and apples. This one is a new player in the game, and Neo's been around for a while now. And as you know, even a year is an eon when it comes in crypto time. So guys, if you want to know a bit more about Metaverse, rather than listening to me talk about it, because I don't know much about it yet, a mate of mine named Tyler Swope, he's an absolute legend. Swope, he's dope, is what some Americans might say, but he really is. He's a really cool guy, and he spends a lot of time bothering to read his white papers, and I won't deal with anyone who doesn't, because you have to know the technology. It's not the end all. It's actually only part of the discussion. And I was actually talking to this via chat with the Arcane Bear, who, you know, has a very different position on that. His argument with me yesterday was that technology isn't really that relevant, and you can check out his post on that. But I totally disagree. And the reason why is because technology is key in every business, in every area of industry. Technology essentially is what makes our lives easier, and if you have something that makes the life easiest of any industry, then many people are going to flock to that, provided other things like it's well marketed, it's got good support networks, its value is within reach. So there's all these other key aspects to make it a product that is going to flourish, and reliance on just the technology won't work, for sure. But if you're going to argue that technology is not relevant, then no, sorry, it is, because that's what underpins all blockchain anyway, is a specific algorithm, a specific design, a specific capacities, abilities to function as assets, and the list goes on. What we need to do is stay current and make sure that every time we invest in something, we understand its design, its architecture, and what sets it apart. So moving on from that, guys, if we want to talk about Metaverse in detail, you can also go to this site. It was a bitcointalk.org discussion, and I found it really good. I'll try and scroll and show you a bit more if I can, but it came from this site here. If you want to check it out, guys, what I liked about this is it just itemized all the reasons why this person thought Metaverse was something to, at the very least, consider in your sort of exploration of main chains in China. One of the examples I suppose is worth mentioning is that it has a very low market cap at the moment, as compared to the 1.4 or whatever it is currently, 1.4 billion market cap of Neo. So that being said, one could argue if it is a potential player in the future of Chinese blockchains, then its time right now could be really profitable. But it's not financial advice, because, as I said, I won't do it until I research it further, and even then, it has to tick key criteria for it being a very worthwhile addition to my portfolio. The next thing, guys, I want to talk about is Loopring. I've talked about it before, but here is a post on the Reddit site. The question it asks was what Loopring LLC is and how it relates to Neo, Da Hongfei, City of Zion, and the new Neon Meta Exchange. Now, I really liked this. It was a current post as well. It was really comprehensive, and I think it encapsulated a lot of the people's questions, or it answered rather a lot of people's questions as to what Loopring is. If you aren't aware, Da Hongfei is also an advisor, and the sheer technology that underpins this, which I've looked into, is very good. It's right up there with other competitors in the market, and the price currently of this particular smart contract is quite low. And again, it's not financial advice, but I do like to broach the ones that I'm currently researching and that I find from a economic standpoint and from an investor's and entrepreneurial standpoint, I think that they are worth looking into. ADEX is another one. I've broached this before. It's not a pump and dump for me. I don't pump and dump any of these. I don't believe in it. In the long term, I'm about holding or hodling. And ADEX is great because it's essentially an advertisement network, decentralized advertisement system that is going to be ported in and adopted in within the NEO framework and blockchain, I believe. At this stage, it certainly requires more media sources to confirm that, but what I like is its overall, its concept, its proposal, its connections with NEO. Finally, guys, if you want to check out my Twitter site, by all means do so, guys, because this is where I try to do those really quick posts of current news that's going on. I try and locate bits of things that are going on around the world, and I just throw them in there because sometimes there's little gems that not only I find, other people find that will then lead into other key research, like for example the CryptoRuble, like for example when the ICO ban hit. All of those things happened for me in the Twitter sphere as well, and from there I can go and make more informed decisions for my own investments. So at the end of the day, guys, we are all in it to make a buck. We're in it to learn and to share, and to, most importantly, grow the community through great information and the willingness to share ideas. So guys, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, as always. There's nothing like being part of this space. I really enjoy it. Yeah, and I'll try and provide some other research information very soon. I've been getting a lot of questions and a lot of requests, and I will try to look into certain things further, but I want to be upfront and say that generally the videos I try and do are based on what I perceive as good, related to good investments, and I am very focused on blockchain main chains, and then the smart contracts that are up and coming for those main chains, because I can see that that's where a lot of profit's going to be coming from, especially in the enterprise sector. So guys, I've talked a lot tonight. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll endeavour to put together some other really interesting posts in the future. So cheers, I'll talk to you soon.